Clint Eastwood is talking about the Hollywood stars from the Golden Age. He says that 9 of these people were not very nice. Clint Eastwood has been working in Hollywood for a long time, about 70 years. He has seen what really goes on in Hollywood when the cameras are not rolling and the people who help the stars are not around. Now that Clint Eastwood is 95 years old, he is telling us the secrets that he never told before about the things that happened in Hollywood. Clint Eastwood is sharing his thoughts about the Hollywood he knows. It is not a pretty picture. Eastwood said something in a rare interview in 2025. Some stars were not just hard to work with. They were bad people who looked nice with their makeup and big smiles. Eastwood did not talk about these things for a time. He said that in Hollywood you have to keep quiet or you will not work anymore. Now that a lot of these famous people are gone, Eastwood thinks it is more important to tell the truth than to protect their reputations. Eastwood wants to tell the truth about these Hollywood stars. The truth about Hollywood stars is what Eastwood is talking about now. What you are about to find out is not about the bad things that happen behind the scenes or famous people being difficult. These are stories of people being treated badly, of violence, and of abuse that movie studios paid a lot of money to keep secret. They spent millions of dollars to make sure nobody knows about the behavior and abuse that really happened. Number 1. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was an actor who played heroes in the movies. He was known for being very charming and handsome. People thought of him as a hero because of the roles he played. The truth is that Errol Flynn was not a hero in real life. He was actually a person who did some bad things. Errol Flynn liked to hurt people. He got away with it because everyone thought he was a good guy. He used his fame and his looks to make people like him and to hide the bad things he did. People still talk about Errol Flynn today because he was a good actor and he made many famous movies. It is also important to remember that he was not a good person and he did some very bad things. In the 1930s and 1940s, Errol Flynn was a movie star. He played the hero in movies like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. Errol Flynn had a body, a nice smile, and a lot of charm. This made him very popular with the ladies. Women really liked Errol Flynn. Men liked Errol Flynn too. They wanted to be like Errol Flynn. What Flynn was looking for became really clear in 1943. That was the year he went to court for something bad. He was accused of doing something to 2 young girls, Betty Hansen and Peggy Satterley. They were underage. Flynn was found not guilty. This was probably because he was a movie star and had a lot of money for good lawyers. Even though he was found not guilty, the trial showed that Flynn liked girls who were very young. The trial made it clear what Flynn was like when it came to women. Flynn had a problem with wanting to be with young women. When Flynn died in 1959, at 50 years, old people gave him a lot of praise for being a swashbuckling movie star. The real story about the things Flynn did was something that everybody in Hollywood knew about but did not talk about. Eastwood said that is how things were done back then. The movie studios were in charge of the newspapers. They were in charge of the police officers. They were in charge of the judges. If you made money for the movie studios, you could do anything and get away with it. Flynn was a movie star, and he made a lot of money for the studios, so he could do things that other people could not do. Number 2. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was a star. She used to be known for playing fun and carefree girls. Then she started playing more serious roles. This change in her career led to her winning an award for her part in Mildred Pierce in 1945. People saw Joan Crawford as a classy and determined woman. She was a woman who made herself successful even though she came from a family. Joan Crawford became a respected person in Hollywood. Behind doors, people who knew Crawford said she was really mean to those around her, especially her adopted kids. Eastwood met a lot of people in his job. They told him about Crawford. He said Crawford was as mean in life as she was beautiful on screen. Eastwood said it was even worse than that. He said Crawford was actually cruel, on purpose. Crawford's daughter Christina wrote about her mother's abuse in the book Mommy Dearest. This book came out a year after Crawford died. Eastwood says that the book did not tell the story. Eastwood talks about a decorator who worked with Crawford. This person told Eastwood some scary things about going to Crawford's home. Eastwood said that this lady kept a lot of files. He was telling a story about something an MGM producer once told him. This producer said that she had information about all the people who could have caused her trouble. Number 3. Bing Crosby. Every Christmas people listen to Bing Crosby's nice voice singing White Christmas, the best song that has ever been sold. Bing Crosby seemed like a guy to everyone. He was a Catholic and a loving father. People in America loved Bing Crosby. He was their singer. Bing Crosby was the kind of man that everyone wanted to be like when it came to family. He was a family man, and people still love listening to Bing Crosby sing White Christmas. The truth about this person was really bad. People who knew him said that. He could sing beautifully, but he had a very bad temper. Eastwood said this about Crosby. He met Crosby at times when he was just starting out. Eastwood said he had the voice of an angel and a temper from hell about Crosby. Eastwood remembered a scary moment at Paramount Studios back in the 1950s. He was still a contract player at Paramount Studios at that time. He said he was walking past Bing Crosby's dressing room when he heard Bing Crosby screaming at someone. Bing Crosby was not just angry, Bing Crosby was furious. When the door to Bing Crosby's dressing room opened, Gary Crosby, who's Bing Crosby's son, came out. Gary Crosby had bruises on his arms. Bing Crosby saw Eastwood standing there, gave Eastwood a look. This look from Bing Crosby meant that Eastwood should pretend he did not see anything that happened in Bing Crosby's dressing room. What Eastwood saw at the Crosby house was something that happened all the time. Years later, Gary Crosby wrote a book called Going My Way. In this book, Gary Crosby talks about the things his father Bing Crosby did to him. Gary Crosby says that Bing Crosby would weigh his sons every week. The thing that happened in the end was very sad. 2 of Crosby's sons, Lindsay and Dennis, took their lives, but not at the same time. They died years apart. Eastwood said the saddest part was seeing America think Crosby was the father when really his own children were struggling. Crosby's children were. That is what is so sad about Crosby. The people in Hollywood knew what was going on. The heads of the studios, the actors, and the directors. Nobody said anything. Clint Eastwood thinks this is because famous people have a lot of power. He said that people like to look up to people as heroes. Even when these heroes do things to people who cannot defend themselves, people still want to think of them as heroes. Number 4. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas is remembered as a star in Hollywood. He was the star of Spartacus and Paths of Glory. Kirk Douglas is also the man who helped end the blacklist. He did this by making sure Dalton Trumbo got the credit he deserved for his work on the screen. Kirk Douglas was an important person in Hollywood. Eastwood said something about Douglas that's really bad. Douglas seemed like a hero to a lot of people. Eastwood thought Douglas was not a good person when it came to young women. Eastwood said that Douglas had a lot of power, and he used this power in a bad way. This is what Eastwood told a friend after Douglas died in 2020. Eastwood and Douglas, they are the people we are talking about here. Eastwood had some bad things to say about Douglas. Something bad happened to Natalie Wood. She was 15 years old at the time. Natalie Wood had a scary experience with Douglas. This happened when Natalie Wood was trying out for a part at the Chateau Marmont Hotel. Natalie Wood's sister Lana says that Douglas did something wrong to Natalie Wood. Other people also say that Douglas touched Natalie Wood in a way that was not okay. Douglas was still a deal in Hollywood. People looked up to him. He had a lot of power. Eastwood said some directors did not want to work with Douglas. They could not say why. If they did, it would hurt their careers. Douglas did a lot of things for people and gave a lot of money to charity. This helped keep people from criticizing him when he was alive. Douglas and his humanitarian work made him seem like a good person. Number 5. Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery was a big star for MGM in the 1930s. People loved him because he played guys who were also very kind in movies like The Champ. He even won an Oscar for this movie. Wallace Beery had a way of acting, but he always played characters with a lot of heart. That is why he was one of the famous character actors in America. He was known for playing tough guys, which is what made Wallace Beery so well known. People in Hollywood have been talking about this for a time, and Eastwood says there is a lot of truth to it. Apparently Beery was involved in something, the death of Ted Healy. He was the guy who created the Three Stooges. Ted Healy died from a bad beating, and it is still a mystery. Beery had a connection to this death, which pretty strange. The death of Ted Healy is one of the mysterious things to happen in Hollywood. If you knew what people got away with then, Eastwood said, you would not sleep at night thinking about all the things people did and got away with, people like that. They got away with a lot of things back then, and that is what Eastwood said, you would not sleep. In December 1937, Healy was at the Trocadero nightclub having a drink. Something bad happened that night. Healy got into a fight with Beery and two other men at the Trocadero nightclub. Healy was really hurt outside the Trocadero nightclub. Healy died a days later because of the injuries he got at the Trocadero nightclub. So Eastwood said that after that the movie people did what they usually do. They tried to keep it quiet. Eddie Mannix, who worked for MGM, got involved to help Beery because he was a star for the studio. They said the official reason for the death was nephritis. They did not say anything about the fight. After that, Beery went to Europe away. Number 6. Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney was a famous actor. He was in a lot of movies and people loved him. But the thing is, Mickey Rooney never really acted his age. He was like a kid his life. The problem with Mickey Rooney is that he liked women. He would often date girls who were much younger than him. This was not a thing. People still remember Mickey Rooney for his movies. He was an actor and people liked watching him. We should also remember that Mickey Rooney was not a perfect person. He made some mistakes. Mickey Rooney will always be known as an actor. We should also think about the things he did that were not so great, like how he would prey on women. This is a thing to remember about Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney was a big star in America from 1939 to 1941. People loved Mickey Rooney for his movies like Andy Hardy, because he seemed like a nice young guy. When Mickey Rooney was a grown man, he still looked kind of like a kid, and that is why people all over the world liked Mickey Rooney so much. People like Eastwood and others who know what Rooney was like when the cameras were not rolling say that Rooney was not as nice as he seemed. Rooney had a side that was not very nice. Eastwood said something about Rooney. He said that some men never really grow up, and they can still do a lot of harm even though they are acting like boys. Eastwood was talking about Rooney when he said this. Rooney was one of those men who stayed a boy forever and did things like a grown man. The difference was really something, Eastwood said. On the movie screen, this guy was a kid that parents thought was okay. When the cameras were not rolling, the people in charge of security at the movie studio were telling the actresses to make sure they locked their dressing room doors when this guy was around the studio. Mickey Rooney had a long career that lasted for 90 years. He started out as a child star, then became a very respected person in Hollywood, a kind of elder statesman of Hollywood, which is pretty amazing for Mickey Rooney. Number 7. John Huston. John Huston made some great movies like The Maltese Falcon, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and The African Queen. John Huston is known for being one of the directors in Hollywood because he was very good at making movies. John Huston was a man who liked to try new things, and he always did what he thought was right, which made other directors think he was amazing. John Huston is a legend when it comes to directing movies. Eastwood says that when he worked with Huston on the movie White Hunter Black Heart, he saw some things that really bothered him. This movie is about Huston himself and what he was like when he was making The African Queen. Eastwood thinks that Huston did some things that were not okay. He did things that were really disturbing. The way Huston worked was sometimes very strange. It made people feel uncomfortable. Eastwood is talking about Huston and the movie White Hunter Black Heart. How it shows what Huston was like when he was working on The African Queen. Clint Eastwood said something about this guy. He said the guy was really mean when he was not drinking. The thing is, the guy was hardly ever not drinking. Clint Eastwood said this guy was the person you would ever meet when he was sober. And he was rarely sober, the guy was usually drunk. The way Huston treated animals when he was making movies is really sad. When he was working on The African Queen, he let a lot of animals die just to make the movie seem real. This is very troubling. On the Misfits, horses were made to run much that they got very tired, and some even died from all the stress. Huston's treatment of animals during these productions was particularly bad. Huston was a well-liked movie director in Hollywood. He stayed that way until he died in 1987. People still thought a lot of Huston, even when he did some things that were not very nice. Huston remained one of the respected movie directors in Hollywood until his death in 1987. Number 8. Marie Prevost. Marie Prevost was a movie star. She was very famous a time ago. Now Marie Prevost is mostly forgotten. It is really sad that Marie Prevost died all by herself. Eastwood says that what happened to her is a sad thing that happens a lot in the industry. The industry will use stars long as they are popular and can make money, but when they are not popular anymore, the industry will just forget about them. This is what Eastwood means by the abandonment of stars. Like her, once their marketability has faded. The industry just abandons stars, like Eastwood, when they are not marketable anymore. People cheered for her at movie premieres. Then they just left her alone to struggle, Eastwood reportedly said. As Marie Prevost got older and heavier in the 1930s, it became really tough for her to find Marie Prevost roles. Marie Prevost was a star at one point, but then Marie Prevost was only getting small parts, and eventually Marie Prevost was not getting any work at all. Marie Prevost started feeling down, and that led to Marie Prevost drinking too much, and things just kept getting worse for Marie Prevost. The movie studio system, which had made a lot of money from Marie Prevost's success, did not do anything to help Marie Prevost. Prevost's story shows us that the problem is not a few bad people, but the whole system is cruel. It is like a machine that does not care about human beings. It just uses them, and then throws them away like they are worthless things. The industry is the problem. It treats people like things that can be used and discarded, not like beings. Prevost's story is about this system, how it's cruel and does not care about people. Number 9. Bette Davis. Bette Davis is really famous for being an actress in movies. She won the Oscar award 2 times. People still talk about how good she was. In the movies about Eve and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Bette Davis had a lot of talent. She acted with a lot of intensity. Bette Davis is just amazing. People like Eastwood and many others who worked with Davis say that she was also one of the scary people to be around on a movie set. Davis was an actor who liked to play mind games with the people she acted with and the people who helped make the movie. She would use these games to get what she wanted from the actors and the crew. Eastwood said that he really liked her work. She was a difficult person to be around when they were filming. Eastwood thought that even though she was a woman, she was like a fight on the set, which is why he called her war in a dress. Bette Davis was really mean to the actresses. She would do things to hurt their performances on purpose. Davis would change where they were supposed to stand in the middle of a scene. She would say her lines at the same time as them, or she would even tell them they were not doing a good job right in front of the people who worked on the movie. This happened a lot, and a lot of people saw it. Bette Davis did these things to the actresses who might be better than her. Eastwood said that we needed heroes. We needed people to look up to. So we looked away when it came to the heroes we had, because they were not perfect. Eastwood said that we looked away. He said that some things are good and some things are bad. All things have mistakes, he concluded. The thing that is really dangerous is when we forget that the things have mistakes.